All right, today we're going to set sail on a journey back in time. We're going to explore the lost, almost legendary ports of ancient Arabia, these forgotten engines that powered entire empires.
You know, when you think of Arabia today, you probably think of oil. But what about before oil? What was it that fueled the incredible wealth of its ancient kingdoms? Well, the answer wasn't buried under the sand. It was flowing right across the water. It was the immense power of maritime trade, a network that connected whole civilizations and moved the world's most valuable goods. And right at the center of this ancient global economy was this incredible, dangerous, and now mostly forgotten maritime superhighway. We're talking about a chain of really sophisticated ports all along the coast of the Red Sea. And these weren't just docks, they were the thriving, beating hearts of powerful kingdoms. Okay, so to really get a handle on these ports, you first have to understand the world they had to master, a world that was completely defined by the sea.
This is the Red Sea. Back in ancient times, it was known as the Sea of Kulzum, and it was the critical artery. Think of it as a pipeline, connecting all the riches of Africa and Arabia with the totally insatiable markets of the Greco-Roman world. But here's the catch. This vital artery was anything but safe.
I mean, sailing here was an absolute nightmare. This was not the open ocean. The Red Sea was basically a maze of treacherous coral reefs lurking just under the surface. You had violent, sudden storms that could whip up out of nowhere, and these really tricky coastal currents that could just grab a ship and pull it off course in an instant. It got so bad that most ships had to just crawl along the coastline, sailing only during the day, and then frantically looking for a safe place to anchor every single night. It was slow, and it was incredibly dangerous work. So, to conquer challenges like that, Arab seafaring had to evolve, and fast. The earliest sources we have talk about really simple boats, not much more than rafts, really, made from leather hides and palm trunks. But as trade started to boom, they began buying bigger, ready-made ships from other countries. The real game changer, though, was that final step. They started importing heavy timber, some of it from as far away as India, to build their own advanced ships, custom designed to handle these very perilous waters.
So, let's start our journey. We'll begin way up in the north, in the territory of the powerful Nabatean kingdom, to see just how they put all this knowledge to work.
For centuries, historians have been absolutely haunted by a puzzle. Where was the most important Nabatean port? All the classical texts call it Luque Com, which means the White Village. We knew it was a massive hub for trade, but its exact location was completely lost to time. So, where on earth was it? Well, modern archaeologists are pretty sure they've found it, at a site we now call Ainanua. And the clues? They're really compelling. They've dug up huge ruins, just full of the right kind of pottery, Nabatean and Roman, exactly what you'd expect. The site itself is built around this enormous natural basin, easily big enough to shelter a huge fleet of ships. And, as if to put a giant sign on it, looking down from a mountain nearby are the ruins of a Nabatean castle. You don't build that unless the place below is incredibly important and worth protecting. And if you want to get a sense of just how massive this port really was, listen to this. The Roman historian Strabo, he tells us that back in 25 BCE, a Roman general docked his entire invasion fleet here. I mean, can you just imagine that? A harbor literally swarming with warships, soldiers, and all their supply vessels? This wasn't some sleepy little village. This was a military and commercial powerhouse.
Okay, so let's sail south from Nabatean land. We're now entering the Hijaz region. This area was home to the ports that would serve some of the most famous cities in all of Arabian history.
Here, you had two major ports that were basically rivals, competing for dominance. Up north, there was Al-Jar, the main port for the city of Medina. It was a true international crossroads, just buzzing with merchants from all over the place, including this fascinating group of medieval Jewish traders called the Radhanites. A bit further south, you had the port of Al-Shuaiba, which served the city of Mecca. It was Mecca's main gateway to Africa. And there's this one incredible story that says a Roman ship actually wrecked on the coast nearby, and the timber from that shipwreck was salvaged and then used to rebuild the sacred Kaaba in Mecca. Okay, let's keep going down the coast all the way to the southern end of the Red Sea. Now this was the heartland of the legendary incense kingdoms. These kingdoms became fabulously wealthy from a commodity that, back in the ancient world, was pretty much as valuable as gold.
And two ports here were the absolute kings of the trade. First was Musa, a name you might recognize in its later form, Mocha. This place was way more than a port. It was an industrial center, famous for making high-quality weapons like daggers and spears. But nearby was another port, Ocelis, and for Ocelis, its location was literally everything. It sat right at the narrow strait at the mouth of the Red Sea, a perfect choke point. What did that mean? It meant it was the mandatory first and last stop for every single ship sailing to or from India. This allowed the local kingdoms to control, and of course tax, the entire flow of trade.
But you know how these things go. This golden age of Arab control over the seas, it couldn't last forever. The tides of power were about to shift, and shift dramatically, as outsiders got very jealous of all this incredible wealth and control.
So how did this incredible era come to an end? It actually started with a secret. For centuries, Arab sailors had a total monopoly on one critical piece of information: the patterns of the monsoon winds. This was the key to sailing directly across the open ocean to India, and they guarded it fiercely. But around the 1st century BCE, the secret got out. A navigator named Hippalus told the Romans everything, and just like that, Roman ships could completely bypass the Arabian coast. This shattered the Arab monopoly. Then, in the centuries that followed, invasions from the Aksumites in Africa and the Persians just hammered the region, sending these once mighty ports into a long, slow decline.
And the economic hit from this shift, it was just staggering. Look at this number, 25%. That was the customs tax the Romans eventually put in place at ports like Lucugole. 25%. Think about that for a second. For every 4 crates of silk or spice or incense that came through, the value of one of them went straight to Rome. All that wealth that had been building Arabian kingdoms was now funding an entirely different empire.
So what's the legacy of these forgotten ports? Why do they still matter? Well, they were so much more than just dots on a map. They were these vibrant channels for huge cultural exchange between Arabia, Africa, and Europe. They were the economic bedrock for powerful kingdoms. And maybe most of all, they're just a stunning testament to the sheer ingenuity and resilience of those ancient sailors who conquered one of the world's most dangerous seas.
You know, the story of these ports is a really powerful reminder that the world we live in is built on all these layers of forgotten history. And it kind of leaves you with a question, doesn't it? What other forgotten highways, what other lost connections are lying just beneath the surface, silently shaping the world we inhabit today?